Welcome to Healing with Heart, simple ideas for profound healing. These videos are meant for informational purposes only, not intended to diagnose or treat medical conditions.
Hey guys, good to see everybody. Dr. Hart here. Today on Healing with Heart, I got a co-host. We're gonna do something a little different. I've got Renee Harper, RN, coming in. She is out of Oklahoma, specializes in gut health, works a ton, has a great background with anxiety, patients dealing with autoimmune conditions. So let's welcome Renee, and I'll let her introduce herself a little bit. Hey, Renee.
Hi, Martin. Thanks for having me. I'm Renee Harper. I'm a registered nurse. I'm here in Oklahoma City, and I've been here about 5 years in my clinic. Started with medical marijuana and now adding functional medicine to it as well. So excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, Renee and I got to connect a little bit too over some different energy testing systems, some NES stuff that we're implementing a little bit. She's well versed in, has used, and so that was really exciting to see. And then connected too over how many of my patients and clients have done really well with cannabis for different variations: pain, seizures, sleep, food, nausea, stuff like that. So we hit it off pretty quick, especially at some of the conferences. So I'm glad to get to do this with you today.
Yeah, this is awesome. Exciting.
Yeah, today's topic, we're going to talk about the gut immune connection. So many people come in and their immune systems are just totally either hyperactive or underactive, either or. And really, when you dig in, as Renee was talking about in the functional medicine, you dig in and you see that it's really related to the gut a lot of times. So Renee, I'll let you talk about this and riff on this for a second, but tell me from your perspective, how you define gut immune issues.
So I kind of started off into this rabbit trail with gut immune things when it happened to me. I had both my lenses replaced with implants, and then I had teeth extracted and had some oral surgery and everything, and ended up having leaky gut from it, Hashimoto's, and it's just been now Epstein-Barr I'm dealing with a little bit as well. So that kind of started my journey, and just seeing how much clearer that my mind became, once I started healing my gut, and just how connected that your gut is to everything else. So
yeah, it's really, a lot of times I really think of it as it's the soil, it's the foundation of everything we're doing in the body. So no doubt. And I always think it makes us better practitioners when we've been through our own journeys like that. So to come through leaky gut and Hashimoto's, autoimmune conditions like that, and the EBV, it allows you to walk the path and guide other people with it with confidence on that front. So yeah, so it all does a lot of times come back down to the gut, right? So gut immune issues, major portions of your lymphatic system are in your gut, right? A lot of your digestion, of course, happens in the gut, but when that happens, it's building your good bacteria down there. So you're having, I could almost say you're like multiple immune systems. You have your body's innate immune system, like all the cells that your bone marrow and your spleen and your thymus gland are making. But then you have the probiotics in your gut, which are having their own immune system. They're battling the bugs for you, and your lymphatics draining out of there. So all that happening. And when you have things like leaky gut, which should create a barrier for us, now all this food and toxins and dead bacteria and infections coming through, they can just wreak havoc on your immune system, which is how you end up things like Hashimoto's, right? So what's the big one? Gluten. There's a strong association between gluten and Hashimoto's, and a lot of that's due to the leaky gut. All those gluten molecules can get through and hit that thyroid. Have you said you stabilized that? How's that doing now for you, the Hashimoto's?
So it's better, but I'm still trying to stay away from gluten as much as possible. And another big thing with me is I was on Prilosec or PPI, some kind of PPI for years and years. And from the day that you could get Prilosec, I was on it for decades. And I tried to quit before and was just unable to. And this time I thought, you know what, I knew enough this time to say, you know what, it's time to just quit that and go through whatever you got to go through to get past that and then heal your gut. So I'm using some gut repair, still doing some like prophylactic detox things, which we all probably should anyway. So, but feeling better, still having some issues, but much better than it was.
Yeah, well, I always end up thinking about health is really about not being perfect, but how adaptable are we? How much can we adapt to what's going on in life? And just as the world gets more toxic, you know, a lot of times I think detoxing needs to become part of your lifestyle. You know, maybe not you're not necessarily doing saunas or coffee enemas every day, but that you make detox become part of your healthy lifestyle now because of how toxic the world is. But to your point of the PPIs, the proton pump inhibitors, those antacids, you know, that stomach acid is our first line of defense. And you know this, Renee, but it's going to kill all that bacteria, you know, other than the great digestive stuff it does, but it's going to kill all that bacteria and parasites. And a lot of times when I see patients who have SIBO, so small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, or they have parasite issues, which are both going to wreak havoc on your immune system, it's because they had low stomach acid. The stomach couldn't keep up with killing that stuff when it came in. And so years and years of PPI, it probably sets you up for some of this other stuff where, you know, you have probably B12 deficiencies and all these immune infections because there's nothing in there to kill it from the get-go. And with the big thing too is we're such a biofeedback mechanism, right? Everything in our body is based on the next thing happening. So stomach acid is really that really start of the whole digestive cycle. So when our stomach acid gets released, it tells the rest of our gut what to do. Okay, gallbladder, release the bile. Pancreas, release the enzymes. You know, intestines move to have a bowel movement. And so when you're not having that, it's never getting all that signal. So it's always, all the communication is always static. So all these patients who have been on it for years and years and years, it's like, okay, guys, you need to start thinking functionally and saying, hey, what's the background? What's going on? Because, I mean, especially as you probably know with your RN background, right, is that people really are meant to be on PPIs for more than maybe a few weeks to a couple months is what they were designed for. But if we don't ever look functionally, we don't ever look root cause, we just get stuck on them. And that's kind of what happens in medicine in general, which is so neat to see somebody from the medical world branching out and saying, it's time for me to think different.
Right. Yep. That's what got me out of the medical field and into my own business, is thinking that way. So.
Yes. Okay. So we were going to talk a little about some different diseases associated with the gut immune axis. We talked a little bit about Hashimoto's and how it's connected, but Renee, do you want to talk a little about how, maybe from your perspective, how are autoimmune diseases associated with the gut immune axis?
So you may have to ask me that again.
Yeah, no worries. So when we were riffing on Hashimoto's a little bit before, we kind of started touching autoimmune. But why don't you talk a little about how autoimmune conditions are related to that gut immune axis, that gut immune connection?
Okay. So I'm not sure how to answer that.
Let me flip the question on you. What are some major autoimmune conditions you see often in practice?
Oh goodness. So like I say, Epstein-Barr is one that I deal with all the time. Hashimoto's is another big one.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. I don't know why.
You know, a big one that we've seen a ton of is rheumatoid arthritis being a big autoimmune one affecting the joints. And so I know we were talking a little about how big diet plays into that on that front for that gut. And it's a lot of times what we see is there's a couple of factors in rheumatoid. Is you can see, especially in research, but it tests out too in the clinic, is that there's maybe proteins from the foods, if they have leaky gut, that are getting into the joints, and then the immune system attacking the joints. And you got the counterbalance where some of those joints are infected with things like Lyme disease or mycoplasma infections or whatever. And so you're creating this dual cascade of like, maybe the infections wouldn't be such a big deal if those proteins were in there creating all this inflammation. And so when you have somebody who has maybe like rheumatoid or like an autoimmune joint issue, what kind of diet would you typically put them on?
So something that is like free of nightshades, different things that are certain to cause inflammation like that. So Yeah, and so I deal with that a lot myself too, because of leaky gut. Then I get the pain in my joints and all, But yeah, and I stay away from nightshades and different things like that just cause inflammation.
Yeah, nightshades at alpha solanine, that's going to create a huge inflammatory response, especially with leaky gut. And so it's quite amazing. Whenever it's really important for people to recognize too, when we talk about the immune system, any inflammation in the body is always mediated by the immune system. There's always an immune reason, right? Whether it's attacking the nightshade, causing the inflammation, or the immune system attacking infection. There's always a connection there, and so when we're talking about like eliminating nightshades, there's multiple reasons there. Like, is your immune system having like a sensitivity and attacking it, or is it provoking an immune inflammatory reaction, like in the joint when you got that leaky gut that opens up, and now all those foods can get into the bloodstream and start getting in the joints and the organs, and all of that's a big deal. I had a patient one time who was talking about potatoes and nightshades, and they had an autoimmune condition we were working with. And I said, okay, look, you're testing sensitive to potatoes. We got to take those out of your diet. And they're like, all right, doc, like, okay, no potatoes. Got it. What about French fries? I was like, no French fries. Okay. What about mashed potatoes? No mashed potatoes.
Doesn't matter how you make it.
Yeah. And so he went through the list, like 3 or 4 more. I finally, like, if it has a potato in it, it's a no. And so I think he was just hopeful though. But he did really well. He did really well on us clearing autoimmune conditions. So but yeah, so a lot of diseases can be associated. So we were talking a little about autoimmune conditions. You can go direct, and these are still autoimmune, but things like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, right? Those are directly associated. But now they're coming out with even beyond autoimmune conditions that have a gut immune connection. And so this could be like the neurodegenerative diseases, right? Things like multiple sclerosis or ALS. ALS is a pretty tough one, but Parkinson's, right? There's that gut immune connection. Number one, they're finding a lot of those cases, like for instance, Alzheimer's, when they dissect their brains afterwards, which is, it's so appreciative that people do donate their bodies to science like that, is that they find that their brains are infected with parasites that have Borrelia. Well, most parasites typically are going to come in through our gut. And our immune system should be in there keeping them at bay, or keeping that Borrelia, that Lyme disease, at bay. And it's not. Or they're having leaky gut. So for instance, in the brain tissue, they can actually find molecules of milk proteins and gluten on the brain tissue. And this is huge for those poor autistic kids who end up with massive leaky gut. And some of the research papers do prove out that there's a major gut immune connection for things like autism, right? And so in autistic brains, we know the neurobiology shows it's major inflammation. Okay, and a lot of those kids, when they test them out, have leaky gut. And so there's that gut immune response where the gut immune system is weak. I run stool tests on these kids all day long, and their immune system is low, and their infection load is high, which is going to create inflammation. And then they've got leaky gut, so the stuff goes to the brain. It hurts my heart anytime I see a child who's obviously autistic, and he's got a soda pop, he's got his bowl of ice cream, and he's got his slice of pizza, and you're going, oh, the poor kid's brain. And sometimes, you ask those parents, who was Renee, do you remember who was the famous actress, Jenny something, who had an autistic child?
She was with Jim Carrey.
She was McCartney. Anyway, somebody will hit us in the comments. If it comes to you, let me know. So, but yeah, she married Jim Carrey for a long time. And so her son was autistic, and she wrote a book on her autistic son. And they would say, and before she knew, they would feed them, give them a slice of bread and a glass. What was it?
Jenny McCarthy, I think.
McCarthy, yes. Yeah. And so they would give their son a glass of milk and a slice of bread because it would calm him down. Well, really what it was doing was shutting his brain down. It wasn't calming him down. It was intoxicating him. And so it's really a major aspect there. And so those are some diseases that are associated with the gut immune connection. And the reality is you can take almost any disease and it's going to have a gut immune connection, right? Because of digestion, inflammation, the
Right.
immune system. And so it's quite incredible how much it gets missed in modern medicine, but how pivotal it really is. Did you want to add anything to that point, Renee? I kind of got on a tangent there.
No, no, that's, I think, her book was about something about, she thought he was autistic from being from a vaccine or something like that, correct?
Yeah, yeah, she had noticed that correlation, which a lot of parents do. You know, they see that correlation. We call it. I read in this one doctor's book. He called it the anvil theory of medicine. He said if you don't have headaches and you're walking down the street and an anvil hits you in the head, and then you have headaches, it's probably the anvil that caused it.
Right.
And so I think a lot of parents of autistic children kind of put that anvil theory to use when they see that happen. So
Right.
it's a big deal. Yeah. Is there Renee? Did you have a story maybe about a patient that you felt like did well working through their gut immune issues and getting that balanced out?
Probably mine's better than any I could tell.
Yeah.
From anybody else, but like I say, it just was, I mean, I'm healthy, I worked out every day, and thankfully I do, because it's helped, you know, push through that when I felt like I just, you know, you just hurt so bad you couldn't move, and it just kind of came on me all of a sudden when I had to change my diet. I had my teeth extracted, went home, didn't think a thing about it, never had a thought, you know, you could juice vegetables and drink them. No, I didn't do that. I thought, oh, I can eat this ice cream and this, that, and the other. And meanwhile, it was just wreaking havoc. And I started just having bad stomach pain and everything else. And one thing led to another, and I was scanned with a different scan than the NES scan. That's a little bit more diagnostic, and it showed candida, 8 different kinds of parasites.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, and then mold and fungus. So I started doing that. I started with the NES. And like I say, I did the scan, and then I used the handheld device.
Yeah, energy medicine. Thank you. Yeah.
And then, and I really, really feel like that helped support me where I could detox a lot faster than you would normally want to, because I didn't want, you know, I had to still run my business and function and all that. But like I say, I've done really well with that after detoxing and had another scan. And I didn't just completely quit with my diet. I just kind of at first started getting rid of things that I knew, like gluten and different things like that. And sugar was the big deal with the candida, of course.
Oh yes.
And also, anyways, and I've done what, like I say, what I've done, what it's done for my mind and the mental clarity and everything is just remarkable. Almost like as life-changing as it was when I had my the lens replacement. I remember laying down on that bed and waking up maybe 15 minutes later and looking around and going, oh wow, I see better than I ever remember seeing. Everything is clearer. That's the way I feel in my head right now. So
yeah, I remember you were saying you were really not in a good spot beforehand, and now you're back to working out every day. I think, you know, I don't want to throw you under the bus age-wise, but you're doing more than most people your age, if I recall you saying. Like you feel better, you've got energy, you're running your own business, you're working out 6 or 7 days a week, I think you were telling me before. Is that right?
Yep. I had to just cut it back whenever I need to spend more time in the business. But yes, I still work out every day, and I'm 61. So I think I do better than a lot of people.
Heck yeah. So you know, I hear you saying basically had to clean your diet up, get the gut cleaned up, healed, and then deal with the bugs, right? The immune system. And so you kind of mentioned some yeast and fungus and mold, which is a lot of my background with my clients and patients. And you know, the mold and fungus, when you get the candida or you get a mold exposure, what it does is multifactorial, but it really creates that leaky gut we were talking about. It'll open that barrier up, really ramps up inflammation while lowering the immune system. And it's really hard on our good bacteria as well. And so it'll mess with all of that while at the same time disrupting our hormones. And so then our whole gut immune axis is just totally dysregulated. And a lot of those people who could tolerate foods beforehand suddenly can't. They're having all these inflammatory or histamine reactions to different foods after they got exposed to mold or mold toxicity. And then now they can't battle off regular infections. They're getting sinusitis, getting sinus infections all the time, colds, EBVs popping up. You know, a lot of those cases of parasites and Lyme, all because that mold exposure is throwing off that gut immune axis. So it's so big. And when you start to really address it, like you're saying, you get results like you get, right? You come back, your mental clarity comes back on, your energy comes back, your vitality. And so that's a huge one. And so one story of a patient I have that she dealt a lot with major mold toxicity and being a root cause for a lot of her. She had multiple other issues, but that was a big one. And for her, it made it so she could hardly tolerate any foods, right? She had to be very, very low carb, which is a big deal with mold a lot of times. And then she was always, she's very reactive to mold. If she get in contact with mold, it take her 2 or 3 days to recover. And oftentimes if it's a big exposure or the right type of toxic mold, she'd have a seizure that was really hard. And then she was always catching every little thing, strep, staph all the time, viruses constantly. And so now though, that we've got our gut healed, we've got our detox of the mold, her body's much more mold adaptable. So she can tolerate being exposed to mold. She can eat more foods without a major issue. She competes nationally in martial arts, which is a huge one. And so she also had was diagnosed at one point with lupus, with autoimmune condition on that front, which was derived from the mold and Lyme. And so she no longer qualifies for that. Doing so much better when you start to really address that gut immune axis, bring that back into balance and address the rest of the body holistically, right? Functionally, you can see these massive shifts. Basically, her going from bed bound, withdrawn from school, no activity, seizures anytime she came in contact with any sort of mold. I mean, imagine going into the mall, which is going to have some mold,
Right.
and boom, you're out for 3 days. And so now she can go out and do all those sort of things. So it's amazing what we do when we address the root, right? When we get to actually get to it. So, Renee, I know you talked a little about how you look at the gut immune axis. You look at diet. You do some energy medicine. It sounds like, is that right? Tell me a little more about how you address these type of issues with clients and health participants.
So I have a signature program that includes energy medicine that is a Nest scan. And then we'll start infoceuticals and then order labs and detox protocol, and then just do personalized treatment for each person depending upon their needs or whatever. And then of course we include diet. I'm big into mindfulness and self-care and stuff like that. I had an automobile accident and it damaged my spleen, so that your immune system you take a big hit there as well. So we're all just different in the things that we need, but the Nest body scan will help support them in the infoceuticals, and we deal with the root causes. So and then, like I say, teaching them to be mindful and just positive, positive self-talk. You get so many people that, well, this always happens to me, or, that's just the way things happen to me and all that. But you're not doing anything for your immune system either.
No, you're almost creating a nocebo effect at that point where you're creating a negative.
Yeah. So it's treating the whole person, as opposed to just putting a Band-Aid on a symptom and sending somebody down the road.
Yeah, that customization piece is huge too. When you mix that with addressing all the all the root causes, and then you put in some positive brain retraining, like that's the ingredients for a healing recipe right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No then they want to tell everybody they know about it, and they actually can see. They don't really even have to tell them too much. They just see a big change, in the people, and it's changes that last.
Yes,
it's a big thing.
that is the big aspect, is is it sustainable? And so changes that last are what we want. What's the website that people can learn more about you at?
So if you go to greenhopewellness.com, I don't really have the functional medicine piece set up there yet like I want to, but they can read some blog articles about medical cannabis and different things like that. And then that's where my energy medicine clinic or whatever will be.
Perfect. Greenhopewellness.com. We'll have that link in the bottom of the show notes as well when we're done. And then is there like a contact form on there or an email address people can contact you at?
Yes. So they can either email info@greenhopewellness.com, or they can just sign up for the newsletter and we can contact them that way.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds perfect. Yeah. So I think a lot of our thinking is very similar on that front. Really, the way, in my mind, the way energy medicine and functional medicine connect, and we mix in with our clients and stuff a little bit what we call biological, like German and Swiss medicine, and so. But our thinking is very aligned on that, which is why I wanted to have you on here and co-host with you. So I love that, and like I said, that customization piece is so big, and then having the guidance and the coaching along the way, so big. So yeah, it's awesome to have you on and get to talk about it. We'll have to collaborate some more. I think I'm gonna have her make a couple blog posts for me for our website so we can see so many of my patients, like I said, do well with the medical cannabis for anxiety and pain and sleep and appetite. And it is an anti-inflammatory. There's so many benefits to it for a lot of those people when it works well. And so she's going to collaborate with me a little bit on that. Thank you for doing that, Renee.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything you want to close with as we come to a close?
So I just think where my heart is and everything is allowing people to be participants in their health, not like the traditional health model where you go to the doctor and they tell you to take something and do this and do that. It's like, we want you to be participants in this with us. And it's lasting changes and a lasting rapport with your patients like that.
Yeah. I always, whenever I train doctors, I always tell them, the first step, they say, should we detox first? Should we whatever? I said, well, the first step is actually building rapport. When you can build that relationship with your, if you want to call them like a health participant, it's so good. Like that's really the key, because in my mind, and a lot of times when someone tells me like, thank you so much, Dr. Hart, I say, I'm just so happy to be on the team with you. I'm just so blessed to be on the team, is because it really is a team effort. This is your hero's journey. And us as the practitioners, we're just here to walk it with you and guide you along. But it's us as a proactive team. And so that, not only does that give better outcomes, but you end up with better connections. Like I always feel, I don't come out of it like it's just work every day. It's like you're building connections with people, and it's so much warmer and so much more caring of an environment that it makes it much more of a joy to come to the office, to come to the come to the sessions when it's like that. So I think that's a great place. I love hearing your heart on that.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. So you can contact Renee at greenhopewellness.com, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so she's got an info@greenhopewellness.com. You can reach out to her at. That'll be in the show notes. I'm going to have some blogs up on KeystoneTotalHealth.com that we're going to collaborate on that front. I hope you learned something about the gut immune connection. If you've got some comments below, questions, we'll try to address when the podcast comes out, the blogcast comes out. Put them down there. If you've dealt with gut immune or autoimmune conditions, mold, Lyme, lupus, Hashimoto's, like Renee was talking about, tell us your experience down there and how you healed them, balancing the gut immune connection. It's great. We always love to hear and share those stories. And until next time, you guys, take care.
Thank you.